Hello everyone. In my prior recordings, I mentioned the Windows 10 Ameliorator project as part of a discussion. Now I want to do a recording to talk about the gaming operating systems. Starting with an overview. You have Windows 10 Ameliorated, which acts exactly like Windows, plus or minus a few things like needing to actually put stuff on the desktop in order to access it easy, and DirectX 12 may not be supported. Then you have 3 Linux distributions or family members, PopOS being the friendliest of the 3. It does have a specific install for AMD video card drivers, which is a huge deal in the Linux world. AMD, for some reason, does not like people freely sharing their drivers or some crap like that. So getting AMD drivers on a Linux distribution is very hard to do. Even then, it's probably not going to perform very well. PopOS makes it all very easy to deal with. Then you have Manjaro, which is going to be more involved than PopOS. I would say this is more advanced. Finally, you have Solus. Solus is custom, and I would say it's a middle ground between Manjaro and PopOS. It can be somewhat easy, but there are certain things where it isn't. Okay, with the overview now, let's go ahead and go into specifics. There's a reason I can't really recommend Windows 10 Ameliorated. It's because it's based on an EU directive or law, meaning it is technically not legal outside of Europe. It can be classified as piracy in North America or other countries. However, I can be excited that it's a step in the right direction. This is honestly what Windows should be doing, but they choose not to. But yeah, so once you get past all of, assuming that you use this, and again, I can't recommend that you do on a legal basis, but assuming that you do use Windows 10 Ameliorate, it's going to do everything Windows 10 does, plus or minus the things that I mentioned. Honestly, all of it's very easy to work around as long as you put your stuff on the desktop and you don't try to update this. You do not need to lift a finger. You install things like you normally would on Windows 10 and leave it at that. Until a game actually needs DirectX 12, you can get away with using Windows 10 Ameliorated. I doubt any games are going to be using DirectX 12 for a very long time. Okay, that's Windows 10 Ameliorate. Let's talk about Pop. Pop, as mentioned, is the easier one of the 3 as it has AMD and NVIDIA installed specifically. Other things that make PopOS great is it has access to the software that you would need to game on Linux right away. All you have to do is go into its little store and download them. It doesn't really require too much effort beyond that. Manjaro, on the other hand, does require you to not only update the kernel, but it also requires you to go through its apps or software to get the drivers and stuff. So unless you are on NVIDIA, this is going to be a much more complicated setup than Pop. Same goes with Solus. Solus does go the NVIDIA route as well. One interesting thing about Solus in comparison to Manjaro and PopOS, though, is it appears to have an integrated app for Steam Proton, which is the Linux version of Steam. This integrated app allows you to do certain things that you wouldn't normally be able to do on Manjaro or Pop. That makes it very interesting. But unfortunately, this is all dependent on you having NVIDIA. Same problem with Manjaro. So PopOS appears to be the way to go if you're going to do Linux gaming. There are going to be more guides out there for Manjaro or PopOS as well when it comes to downloading and maintaining it. Now, one thing I can direct you to, in regards to this whole thing is the Lutris website. This is one of, I think, 2 or 3 softwares that you need on PopOS, Manjaro, and Solus to be able to play games. What you can do is, if you go to lutris.net, and I'll link it in the description, you can go click on Games. From here, you can actually search which games work on Lutris. This will give you a good indication of which games work on PopOS, Manjaro, or Solus. If you'll notice, it's not going to have any of the newer titles, like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019, but it does have all the other esports games as far as I can tell, and it will even do that right now while you're watching. If you go to the right-hand side, you'll see the search function, so I'm just going to type in Overwatch. I'm going to click Apply Filter. This is being kind of slow, but there you go, see? It tells me that Overwatch is supported. Whether or not 100% support or not is another matter, but moving on. We're going to try some other esport games that are still out there. Counter-Strike. Yep, CSGO is there. Okay, let's go and check some of the others. Let's see, it's, what? Overwatch, Counter-Strike. Well, we know Call of Duty doesn't work, so I can completely ignore that. Oh, Rainbow Six. Let's check that. Yep, Siege is here. So, Siege works on PopOS. Trying to think if there's any others that I may have missed for esports. It's been a while since I've dealt with esports, so I'm not entirely sure. Oh, here, let's just type in some random ones like Among Us. I know it's not an esports game, but for the sake of it. No, that's not showing up. Weird. Okay. Yeah, I'd have to sit down and think about what's in esports these days because it's not something I can really remember. But the point is that you can just search all of this, and as I was mentioning, and you should be able to find it if it's supported. If it's not supported by Lutris, or it's not listed in Lutris, then you can go to Google and type in the question. You can do it by either typing in, does X game work on PopOS, Manjaro, or Solus? You want to do all three if you're not finding an answer, but I would start with PopOS because it seems to be the OS of the three that tends to work better with that stuff in comparison to Manjaro or Solus. Seems to have more compatibility, but you get the point though. So it all boils down to what you need though at the end of the day, because this is just looking at games. We're not looking at individual software like OBS, Studio, and that kind of stuff. Though, I guess if you wanted to work around to the problem, it's going to be a bit more advanced if you want to do it this way, but you could dual boot it. You could run, say, Ubuntu Studio with PopOS, and then you can just make it so that Ubuntu Studio is taking a very tiny amount of the drive. I would say maybe 30 gigs or something like that, and then you can devote the rest to PopOS. But really, that's all I can say on the matter. I'll link how-to on PopOS in the description because it is the easier one to work with. Thanks for listening.